Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I turned 34 at Miller's tap. They slid an envelope across the table. Divorce papers. I didn't give them a scene. I signed, stood up, and let the room breathe. That night changed everything. But the birthday stunt wasn't the start. The first real move began 5 days earlier, with a brake job, a quiet house, and a printer humming like it had secrets. I came home around 2. Caught a lucky break on a customer's Escalade. Pads and rotors all 4 corners, in and out in 3 hours. I figured I'd beat Kara home and maybe have 5 minutes to unwind. Instead, I walked into quiet, and the smell of her coconut shampoo wafting through the hallway. The dining room lights were on. That was my first tip. Something was off. Kara never used lights in the daytime, said it messed with her circadian rhythm. I stood in the doorway and saw her hunched over a stack of papers, red pen moving fast across the margins. The printer was finishing off a last sheet, warm ink curling at the edges. And then I heard it, her mom's voice on speaker, low and tight. "Once it's served, we just wait for acknowledgement," Lydia whispered. "The tone matters. You need that footage clean, no aggression, just surprise. Quick note, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Thanks, and let's continue." The second Kara saw me, she flinched. Real small, but I caught it. She moved fast, stacked the papers in one motion, slid them into that stupid envelope with the silver balloons, and shoved the whole thing into her work tote like she was late for a meeting. "Budget stuff," she said, not looking up. Her voice went weirdly bright. I was just finishing the new budget. That alone should have told me. Kara never touched our finances. She treated the bank app like it was nuclear waste. I paid the bills, kept the lights on, tracked every cent. She handled whatever fake crap her influencer clients sent her and called it creative work. Lydia's voice changed, all molasses. "Hi, dear," she chirped. That's how she always said it. Dear, never my name. I was Kara's husband to her, like a hotel room that hadn't been cleaned yet. Kara walked over, kissed my cheek, and then, real casual, said, "Can you swing by and grab Tessa's dry cleaning tomorrow?" Like I was her assistant. Not even her sister's birthday, no reason at all. Just grab her stuff. My gut sank, that hollow stomach drop you get when a jack slips under a car and the whole weight shifts. I tilted my head toward the table. "What paperwork?" She hesitated, just a beat, then laid her palm flat over the envelope like it might crawl off. "Insurance," she said. "It's Dad's policy." Mom needed some of the forms. Bull Neil barely talked insurance. Neil talked fishing holes and rusted-out Chevys. That man once duct-taped his glove box shut rather than file a claim. Kara didn't let me press. She pivoted straight into the Miller's tap setup, as if that was always where the conversation was going. "Wouldn't it be kind of meaningful to celebrate your birthday at Miller's?" she said. "Where you cook?" She hesitated on cook, like the word was beneath her tongue. I wiped grease off my fingers with the hem of my shirt. "Sure," I said. "It's my second job, but it pays more per hour than her sponsored lip gloss gigs." Meaningful, huh? "Perfect," Lydia cooed through the phone. Then the line clicked off. When they left the room, I walked over to the table, still warm from the printer. On the counter were 2 sticky notes. One had a lawyer's name and a number scribbled on it. The other, 3 words. Record his reaction. I didn't breathe for a second, just stood there, hand on a cold beer from the fridge, pressing it to my neck like that could chill the heat rising in my ears. I stared at those sticky notes like they were flashing red on a fuse box. My hands felt itchy, my jaw locked, and suddenly, I knew exactly what the envelope was. Budget, my ass. That night, Kara turned soft. Back rub without asking. A movie I actually liked. She made popcorn, burned it, laughed like old times. She said, "I appreciate you." She hadn't said that in months. Not since Lydia joked I had calloused manners. And Kara didn't even blink. I let her touch my back, but I didn't unclench. Later, lying there in the dark, her breathing slow and fake asleep, I kept hearing that red pen scratching, that envelope sliding shut, that whisper from Lydia. We just need the footage clean. I remembered Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I'd made that cornbread dressing her dad liked, carried the pan upstairs when Kara's back hurt. She made a joke about my grease monkey job, said it in front of Lydia, who raised her wine and said, well, we all start somewhere. The way she smiled then? Same as when she handed me those divorce papers, like she was finishing a project. Looking back, it was all there. The compliments with expiration dates, the dinners where I wasn't asked about my day, just my plan. The birthday setup wasn't a surprise. It was a final step in a playbook they'd already practiced. I didn't say a word that night. I didn't accuse. I didn't ask. I just watched her sleep, knowing she thought I hadn't noticed the smell of toner or the lie in her voice. But I had. And that envelope? I'd seen it before. In the pile under her hand, waiting for the perfect moment. The envelope wasn't the start. It was just the last straw. The first crack showed up 2 weeks after our honeymoon at Tessa's friend's promotion party. Some marketing girl I'd never met just made senior coordinator or something, so they threw a backyard bash with fairy lights, signature cocktails, and a tent big enough to hold a wedding. I wore a button-down that didn't quite fit and tried to make small talk near the shrimp tower. Lydia caught me and waved over a woman in a navy pantsuit. "This is Kara's husband," she said, smiling like she was doing charity work. "He's in automotive." She let the word hang there. Not mechanic, not shop lead, just automotive. Like I was a guy who parks cars. I laughed it off and told a story about a stalled Tahoe we had to push off I-17 in the rain, and how the driver tipped us with 2 soggy Big Macs and a 20. The woman smiled like I'd just told her how I collect bugs. By the time I finished, she was already turning back towards some guy in finance who apparently invented a spreadsheet plugin. Neil walked by, handed me a beer, patted my shoulder once, and then stared at the ground like he'd just seen a wreck. Labor Day rolled in hot. Kara wore linen and pretended she didn't notice the heat. Lydia raised a glass halfway through lunch and gave a toast. "To Tessa's raise," she said, lifting her wine. "To Kara's marketing awards. And to—" She paused. Her eyes landed on me. "Resilience." People clinked glasses. I forced a laugh that sounded like it came from under a hood. Kara didn't even flinch. Thanksgiving, Lydia went around the table listing accomplishments like she was emceeing a banquet. Tessa closed 4 contracts. Kara got featured in that industry blog. Then she turned to me and said, "And we're thankful for the trades. Not me, not Luke, the trades." Like I was part of some workforce she read about once and was now honoring out of politeness. Christmas wasn't subtle. Tessa opened a leather planner. Kara unwrapped a new Fossil watch. I got a paperback called Level Up, a guide for late bloomers, wrapped in grocery store ads. That wasn't a joke. When I held it up, everyone chuckled like I was the punchline at an office party. I looked at Kara. She smiled and mouthed, "It's just funny." New Year's Eve, we had champagne and plastic flutes and sparklers in the driveway. Kara took a selfie with Lydia and Tessa and posted it with the caption, "Women Who Win." I was standing behind them, holding a trash bag full of paper plates and empty bottles. After midnight, Lydia pulled me aside near the mailbox. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" she asked, like she was ordering from a menu. "Provider roles are evolving." I nodded, said, "I'll look into it." What I wanted to say was, I work 2 jobs and still have enough in savings to spot your daughter's half of the utilities. But I didn't. I never did. The family group chat became a performance review. TED talks about leadership. Productivity articles. Questions like, "What's your 5-year timeline?" As if I was a stalled-out franchise. If I mentioned being sore from a long day under a truck, Lydia would send me a podcast about posture and office chairs. Kara told me once over chicken and rice, maybe you could build a trajectory, like a forward-facing one. You mean a job? I asked. I mean optics, she said, like how things look from the outside. We stopped talking about feelings, started talking about optics. Sid's bar was the only place where people asked me real questions. You fixing that Explorer tomorrow? Think the Sox will pull it off this year? Nothing deep, but it was honest. At Ray's, Jules once said, "You're the fastest I've seen on a diagnostic." Ever I didn't know how to respond to that. I just nodded and kept working. Back home, I became the guy who got talked over. My wins didn't count unless they came with a certificate or a mention on Kara's Instagram. I started wearing button-downs I couldn't afford to interviews that didn't call me back. I rewrote my resume so many times I forgot what was real and what was bullet points. One night I stayed up until 2 a.m. trying to figure out what upskilling meant because Tessa had texted it in the chat with a winking emoji and tagged me. Kara read the thread, laughed, and said, "They're just trying to help." I nodded and shut off my phone. By spring, year 2 and some change, I could barely look at myself in the mirror unless my hands were covered in grease. Clean hands looked wrong, like someone else's. I checked my credit score and it had dipped 30 points. Most of that was interview clothes and gas money from all those second-round calls that went nowhere. I barely ate lunch most days, just coffee and whatever snack someone left in the break room. One morning, I caught myself practicing interview answers in the truck, saying things like, "I'm ready to lead," and "I bring hands-on knowledge to fleet systems." I'd say it, then realize I sounded like I was faking it, like I was pretending to be a person who belonged in the room. Kara didn't notice. Or she noticed and didn't care. She'd come home from a marketing lunch with 10 photos on her phone and a big smile and say things like, "You should meet Greg, he's a consultant. He helps people pivot. I didn't want to pivot. I wanted a lane, one I could build in." At some point, I started measuring time in family gatherings. 8 major ones in total, each one like a mile marker, each one carving me down a little smaller than the last. I was there, I smiled, I held plates, I signed cards, I carried coolers and fixed the rental heater and picked up Lydia's dry cleaning when she forgot, and every time I got introduced like a footnote. By the time I caught myself avoiding the mirror, I didn't need anyone to tell me what I'd become. I knew. I wasn't part of the family circle, I was orbiting it, useful only when needed, tolerated when not. But something in me started shifting right about then, quietly, like a wrench slipping onto a bolt that's finally ready to turn. That wrench finally turned the day I stopped saving for the tool chest I'd been eyeing for 6 months and registered for 3 night classes at the community college instead. Intro to Business, Basic Accounting, Project Management 101. Cost me most of what I'd squirreled away from Saturday shifts and tire swaps. I remember hitting submit payment and sitting back like I'd just fired a shot at something in the dark. First night, I showed up early and sat in the back. The professor, Mr. Edmonds, wore a vest and had coffee breath strong enough to cut through the whiteboard markers. The kids around me all had laptops and water bottles with motivational stickers. They talked about agile systems and deliverables like it was their first language. I took notes with a pen I found under the truck seat and stayed quiet. My brain worked fine. My mouth didn't know the corporate lingo. Second week in, we had to introduce ourselves. One kid said he interned for a startup that streamlined CRM architecture. I said I'd been leading multi-phase service operations for a mid-sized private automotive firm. That's what I wrote. What I meant was, I fixed cars, lots of them, fast. At home, I started rewriting my resume every few days, trying to make my job sound like something worth a second glance. Managed multi-step projects under pressure. That's 4 break jobs before noon. Handled stakeholder satisfaction with measurable results. That's a guy handing you a donut because you saved him from missing his daughter's recital. Kara looked it over one night and said, "You should add something about cross-functional collaboration." Then she went back to editing her brunch photos. The job apps went out in batches, 10 a night, 20 on weekends. Mostly online, some with cover letters, some without, and the rejections came back faster than I could track. Most said the same thing, seeking candidates with completed degrees, or looking for applicants with relevant corporate experience. One company made me sit in their lobby for 90 minutes just to tell me the position had been filled that morning. Didn't even offer gas money. Ray started noticing the slip. One afternoon, after I took 3 tries to seat a belt tensioner I'd handled a dozen times before, he looked up from the front office and said, "You're off your game, man." "I'm good," I told him, wiping my hands on a rag. "Luke," he said, not letting it slide, "don't let people shame you out of your lane. But if you're trying to switch lanes, I'll write you something that sounds fancy and true. You've earned it." That stuck with me. Fancy and true. That's what I was chasing. Jules started leaving notes on top of job cards. First one said, "You're good at this." Then came, "You could run this shop someday." I started folding them up and keeping them in my glove box. Little slips of belief, like receipts from a life I wasn't living yet. One night I came home late from class, brain fried, stomach growling, and found Kara on the couch with her laptop. She looked up from a group chat and asked, "How'd your quiz go?" "Got an A," I said, pulling off my boots. She smiled, the polite kind. "Maybe Mom will finally ease up now." She didn't say, "I'm proud of you." Just tossed my win over to Lydia like it belonged to her, like my life was a debt she was collecting on. Lydia started calling every Sunday, like clockwork. Her voice syrupy, the way someone talks to a dog they don't like. "How's the job search going?" she'd ask, dragging out the last word like it had layers. If I said it was slow, she'd sigh gently and say, "Well, these things take time." What she meant was, don't aim too high. I stopped answering after a while. Let it go to voicemail. Kara didn't notice. Sleep got weird, shallow. I'd dream about being late for interviews, missing buses, saying the wrong word. I ate like crap. Sid started sliding me chili or fried pickles at the bar without asking, like he could see it in my face. I'd nod, say thanks, and just shovel it in. At class, I finally spoke up during a lecture on queuing systems. Edmonds asked how businesses could cut downtime during high-volume periods. I raised my hand and said, "At my shop, Saturdays are chaos. We build a punch card system that flags the easy jobs, so we can bang those out first while the hard stuff soaks in diagnostics. Freeze up the bays." He looked up, surprised. "That's queuing theory in action. You just described it better than the textbook he circled my paper that week." "Excellent insight," it said in red ink. I kept that one too. Still, no interviews, no second looks, just silence. One Friday night, I stared at my job spreadsheet, color-coded and mostly red. Kara walked by behind me and said, "You should add more skills to your LinkedIn." "Like PowerPoint or Canva?" "I fix engines," I said without looking up. "Yeah, but people don't hire engines," she replied. "They hire brands." That stuck with me in a worse way. Brands, I started practicing my answers for questions no one had asked me yet. "What's your leadership style?" "Calm under pressure. Don't waste time talking about problems when I can solve them." "How do you manage priorities?" You ever been 5 cars behind on a 3-lift shop and had a walk-in stall halfway through your lunch? You figure it out. Ray saw me staying late one night and said, "You still chasing white-collar ghosts?" I looked up from under a Civic. "Yeah, I guess I am." "All right," he said, flipping a clipboard. "Then keep doing what you're doing. Just don't let them tell you who you are." That's the part that costs the most. I didn't know if he meant jobs or women or both. I didn't ask. One night after class, I sat in the truck, phone in one hand, resume draft in the other, wondering how much longer I could swing both lives. One foot in the grease, one in the spreadsheets. Nothing solid. But I wasn't quitting. Not yet. Wednesday night, I stood over the ironing board, pressing heat into a shirt I didn't care about, and thought, 3 weeks. That's all. I'd already packed my tool bag in the back of the truck. I just hadn't told anybody. The offer letter was folded in my jacket pocket. Plain white envelope, no balloons, no glitter, no cameras, just numbers, and a title and a way out. Earlier that week, Monday, I was folding Kara's gym tops at the kitchen table. Black, stretchy, all marked with some fitness brand logo, and updating the spreadsheet I'd made for job applications. Color-coded like a war plan. Green meant submitted, yellow meant still in play, red meant dead, mostly red. Phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Figured it was spam or Lydia. I hit accept anyway. "This is Jasmine Patel from Redline Logistics," the voice said. Clear, fast-talking, Midwest. "We found your application from February for fleet maintenance supervisor. Are you still interested?" I stood up so fast, my knee smacked the table, and one of Kara's sports bras flopped to the floor. I barely noticed. Jasmine chuckled on the other end, an actual human laugh, not corporate polish. "You okay there?" she asked. Yes. Yeah. Still interested," I said. My voice cracked like I hadn't used it in hours. She dove in like she'd been waiting to. "We like your hands-on experience. Your time in a live shop shows initiative, and your references are excellent. We can teach someone our systems. We can't teach instincts." She told me the package straight. No dancing around it. 62 grand base, medical and dental, 401k match, company phone and laptop, 4 months of corporate housing, 2 blocks from the main yard while I got settled, relocation stipend. Start in 3 weeks if I wanted it. Location, Cedar Falls, 3 hours out. Then she hit me with it. "Ray Harper says you handle chaos without getting loud." I couldn't talk for a second. Ray never even told me he'd put his name down. "I appreciate that," I said, steadying my voice. "We'd like to set a formal interview," she said. "Tomorrow at noon. Over the phone, 30 minutes tops." We locked it in. I thanked her again, hung up, and stared at the fridge like it was going to say something back. My hands were shaking. That kind of hope buzzes in your ribs and makes your stomach flip like bad gas station coffee. That night, I reread the confirmation email 3 times, saved it to a flash drive, took a screenshot, printed a hard copy. I wasn't taking chances. I didn't tell Kara. Not because I was trying to sneak around, but because I'd learned, plain and simple, that good news dies fast in the wrong room. And in our house, good news about me barely survived 5 minutes. Tuesday at lunch, I took the call in my truck, parked behind Ray's, sandwich still in the bag beside me. Jasmine was sharp, asked real questions. How I handled downtime metrics, how I managed parts delays, and what my workflow looked like when a unit failed mid-route. She asked what I'd do if a driver got stuck outside Amarillo at 2 in the morning with a dead lift gate and a hot load on ice. Walk him through a safe bypass, then dispatch parts and notify receiving. "Delay's better than a spill," I said. "That's what I thought you'd say," she replied. "We'll be in touch soon." I sat in that truck, windows up, sweat crawling down my back, and grinned like a fool. By 5 o'clock, the offer letter was in my inbox. Bold header, company logo, signed at the bottom, official. I printed 3 copies, slid one into a plain white envelope and tucked it into the inner pocket of my work jacket. Folded another and placed it under my truck registration in the glove box. One more in the lockbox with the title to the Honda. I wasn't losing this. Drove to class that night like I had a secret taped to my ribs. Bought Jess her favorite scratch-offs at the gas station on the way home. She likes the ones with the crossword grids. And didn't tell her why. Just handed them over with a wink. "You hit something big?" she asked, half kidding. "Not yet," I said, "but I feel lucky." Next night, Kara brought up my birthday while brushing her teeth. "What do you want this year?" she asked through a mouthful of mint foam. "Quiet dinner," I said, rinsing my face with cold water. She snorted. "Mom already planned something. Nothing huge, just a little get-together." I nodded like I was fine with it. "All right," I said, "I'll iron something." She smiled like we were normal. Like I hadn't been sleeping with one foot emotionally out the door for months. Later, while she curled her hair in the bedroom, I sat on the couch and opened the offer letter again. Ran my finger down the numbers. Not millionaire money, but real money. Ladder money. You know that feeling when your shift ends and you're still wired? Like your body's ready to keep working even if your brain's done? That's how I felt sitting there. Like the real work hadn't even started yet, but for once, I wasn't running in place. I thought about what Ray had said. Don't let people shame you out of your lane. This wasn't shame. This was strategy. 3 more weeks and I'd be clocking in somewhere clean. Somewhere that didn't smell like fryer oil or echo with Lydia's voice through a Bluetooth speaker. I still hadn't told anyone. Not Ray, not Jess, not even Jules, and she could read me like a Torque spec sheet. I wanted the whole thing to be real before I spoke it out loud. Wednesday night, I laid out my shirt for the birthday thing. Light blue. Sleeves rolled twice. Rolled. Didn't care if it wrinkled. Wasn't planning to stay long. I looked at the envelope in my jacket pocket and thought, this is the one that counts. Not the envelope they had waiting for me. Theirs had glitter and silver balloons, and a plan to humiliate me. Mine had my name on it, followed by supervisor. Miller's tap was already buzzing when we walked in. I nodded at Buck near the jukebox, got a happy birthday from the dartboard crew, and gave Jess a chin raise behind the bar. She winked back and poured a bourbon I hadn't ordered. The air smelled like fryer oil and burgers, same as always. Comfort food, comfort noise. Kara looked like she'd stepped out of a catalog. White blazer, gold earrings. Hair set perfectly. Like she was there to pitch something instead of celebrate. Lydia walked behind her, lips tight, eyes scanning the chalkboard specials like she was evaluating a high school debate team's snack table. Tessa kept her phone in her hand from the moment she walked in, already recording nonsense and acting like it was just a habit. I should have seen it coming. Lydia didn't take a jab at my job. Not once. That alone should have screamed something was off. She even complimented the fries. We ate. Small talk. Kara asked about the shop like she cared. I gave short answers. Tessa barely touched her burger, too busy typing something, probably lining up hashtags. Sid waved from the kitchen window, sent out a free basket of wings. Then came the clink. Lydia stood, tapped her spoon against a pint glass like she was introducing a keynote speaker, and pulled the envelope from her bag. Silver balloons, glittery trim. From all of us, she said. She smiled like she was handing me a diploma. I already knew. I opened it anyway. The header said it all. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My full name, the case number, blank signature line waiting. Filed last week. They didn't even bother sealing it. Tessa held her phone higher, trying to catch my face as it broke. I didn't give her that. Kara's lips had that same tight line I'd seen whenever I worked late. Cold, flat, certain. No hesitation. Lydia slid a pen across the table like a poker dealer passing chips. No need to drag this out, she said. Casual, practiced. Around us, people were catching on. A couple guys paused mid-dart. Jess stopped pouring a pitcher and narrowed her eyes. Marco peeked from the kitchen. The room didn't go silent, but it shifted. I signed. First initial, last name. No drama, no shaking hand, no hesitation. I clicked the pen shut, set it down gently and leaned back in my seat. My lungs didn't feel heavy. They felt clean. Kara blinked. That's it? You're not going to talk? Her voice cracked halfway through like she'd expected more. Yelling, a scene, something she could point to later and say, see? He lost it. I nodded once. Thank you. Genuinely, I reached into my jacket and pulled out my envelope. The plain white one. No frills, just facts. My turn, I said. Tessa stopped recording, confused. That alone was a win. I opened my envelope and pulled out the letter. I didn't have to read the whole thing. Just enough to make it stick. Fleet Maintenance Supervisor, Redline Logistics, 62,000 base, 401k, full benefits, 4 months corporate housing. Start date in 3 weeks, Sid hollered from behind the bar. Attaboy, Luke, the Dart guys clapped. Jess let out a sharp whistle. Even the group of middle school teachers by the window started cheering like I'd hit a walk-off. Lydia's smile froze, then came back too wide, too fake. Relocation? How? Sudden, she dragged out supervisor like it hurt to say. Kara jumped in, fast. We've talked about moving. It's not a total shock. We didn't, I said. Calm, straight. We talked about me being more present, more evolved, and still bringing in more. Tessa dropped her phone, picked it up, checked the screen, hit record again like muscle memory. She didn't even know what she was capturing now. It's in Cedar Falls, I said. 3 hours. They said they liked how I think in problems and parts. Said they need people who know what it means to lead under pressure. I looked straight at Kara. Start in 3 weeks. Buck stood up near the jukebox. To the man of the hour, he said, holding up his beer. Make it 2 bourbons. Sid poured them before he finished the sentence. Lydia's jaw twitched, just enough for me to see it. You knew about this, Kara said. Not a question. Just anger with nowhere to land. Since Monday, I said. Same day you and your mom were doing your little envelope rehearsal. Jess made a noise behind the bar, half snort, half cough. Turned away fast so Lydia wouldn't see the grin on her face. Lydia tried to collect herself, sat straighter. Well then, we wish you the best. She said it like she was writing a sympathy card, condolences with a side of contempt. I nodded. You tried to turn my birthday into a YouTube sob clip. I turned it into a promotion party. That's the whole thing. I slid a 20 toward the tab even though I didn't owe a dime. Sid waved it off. I left it anyway, hugged him over the bar. Fist bumped Marco, who just said, Damn right. Jess leaned in. Proud of you, grease monkey, she whispered, then winked. I turned toward the door. Someone clapped again. Don't even know who. I didn't turn around to find out. Didn't have to. That moment, that exact moment, that was mine. By the time I hit the truck, my phone looked like a pinball machine with epilepsy. 15 texts from Kara, 3 missed calls from Tessa, 2 from unknown numbers I figured were Lydia's friends, probably trying to check in while also hunting for gossip. I dropped it face down on the passenger seat and drove home with the windows cracked. Let the cold air hit me. Let the alerts keep jumping. Let them wait. Back at the apartment, I packed quiet. 1 duffel bag, work jeans, thermal shirts, my best steel toes. The torque wrench set I'd bought, used, and restored piece by piece with my own cash. And the envelope. Redline's offer letter, folded sharp. I opened my top drawer, slid my wedding ring off, and placed it flat in the corner like a spare washer you don't want to toss but don't need anymore either. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost sent it to voicemail, but I recognized the digits. Neil. He didn't call often, didn't talk much when he did. You free to talk? He asked. Without audience? We met 20 minutes later at the park by the river, the one where he takes his little aluminum boat when the fish are biting. He wore the same jacket he always fished in. Camo sleeves, torn collar, no boat today. Just him and a plastic grocery bag he held like it weighed more than it should. I can't do much, he said, but I can do this. He pulled out a thumb drive and a crumpled printout and handed them to me. I unfolded the paper. It was an email chain. Lydia to a lawyer. The subject line read, Final draft, no alimony exposure. The body made my teeth clench. We'll capture his reaction on video to demonstrate instability. We believe a clean, emotion-based moment can work in our favor. The thumb drive had screenshots, texts from Tessa about camera angles, one from Kara that read, Get him to sign at the table, clean backdrop, no mess. My mouth went dry. You saw this? I wasn't supposed to, Neil said, eyes still on the water. Found it in the shared files on the family desktop. If I keep it, she'll find it. If you have it, at least it's not just your word anymore. I couldn't speak right away. I just stared at the flash drive like it had teeth. Why are you helping me? I finally asked. It wasn't bitterness. I just needed to know. Neil looked down at his hands. Because I watched you carry her broken grill up the deck stairs 2 summers ago when it was 90 out and no one else lifted a damn finger, he said. Because I've seen how they talk to you. And because I'm tired, it wasn't much. But it was everything. We didn't shake hands. We didn't hug. Just stood there for a minute until the wind picked up and Neil said, "Don't let 'em spin it." At the apartment, I crashed on the couch. Didn't even bother pretending. Kara had left the bedroom door open, which she never did when she was mad. That meant she wanted a scene. I wasn't giving her one. Her text came around midnight. "Kara, we should talk." I didn't reply. The next one was from Lydia. "Lydia, leave the Honda. It's in our name." It wasn't. The title was mine, signed and paid off with tax return money 2 years back. I took a picture of the title on the coffee table, sent it back with no message, let her sit with it. Then came the break I didn't expect. Jess pinged me a link. Miller's Tap Security. Tuesday night, camera 3. Sid had pulled the footage himself. I watched it twice. The clip started with Lydia by the bathrooms, holding the envelope, flipping it open and closed like she was rehearsing. Her hands shook a little. Not nerves, more like excitement. You could see Tessa angle her phone, tilt it, check the light, flip it once more. She tapped record 4 separate times before we even sat down. I emailed everything to Colleen, Ray's sister's friend, the lawyer who handled contract stuff for mechanics and shop disputes. I told her what happened. Attached the screenshots, the video, the printout, and one picture of the envelope itself. She emailed back in 20 minutes. "Colleen, keep all of this. Don't engage except through counsel. You're going to be okay." That line hit me harder than anything Kara had said in 6 months. I read it 3 times and finally let myself breathe for real. Next morning, Kara tried the waterworks. Stood in the kitchen in pajama pants, and one of my old sweatshirts like that was supposed to mean something. "I was overwhelmed," she said, voice catching in her throat. "It was supposed to be simple. Clean. Just not like that." "You mean not in front of people?" I asked. "Not where you lost control of the edit?" She wiped her eyes. No tears came. "I thought if you saw it that way, you'd understand it wasn't personal." "You recorded it," I said. "You planned angles." Her face twitched. "You were never going to change." "No," I said. "I was. I did. You just didn't notice." She stepped forward, reaching like she might touch my arm. "We can fix this." "I signed," I said. "You handed me a script." I read my line. "Scene's over." She didn't even flinch, didn't push back, didn't cry harder. That told me everything I needed to know. You ever expect someone to fight for you even just once, and they just don't? That's the most honest moment you'll ever get. The road to Cedar Falls was quiet. No Lydia voice echoing in the passenger seat. No texts blowing up my phone. No talk about optics or trajectory. Just my duffel bag, my torque set, and the offer letter folded up in the glove box next to the title for the Honda. I'd left that voicemail for Colleen on the way out of town. Keys turned in. Apartment cleaned. Nothing left behind but the receipts. Let's move. Redline's yard smelled like diesel and wet pavement. It was raining light when I pulled in. Just enough to coat the hoods. Not enough to slow anything down. First thing I noticed? The rigs were clean. Tight lines. No busted mirrors or duct tape patch jobs. That meant something. Jasmine met me at the gate and handed me a badge with my photo on it. Binder under her arm, Redline logo across the front. "You'll ride with Joe 2 days," she said, already walking toward the shop. "Then it's all you." Joe was 49, ran the PM board like a general, and knew every driver's name, their kids' birthdays, and which ones were trying to sneak out of DOT inspections. He didn't say much at first, just pointed and watched how I moved. "You do brake inspections like a guy who actually cares," he told me on day 2. Rare. The corporate apartment was about a mile from the yard. Not big, but clean. Came furnished. No frills, no drama. A couch that didn't sag, a bed that didn't squeak, and a water tower outside the window that reminded me where I was every morning. Utilities paid. Fridge stocked enough to get me through week 1. I made coffee the first morning and sat at the little kitchen table, and the silence hit different. No Kara asking where her keys were. No Lydia's voice on speaker. No tension. Just quiet. That first week, we had a reefer unit go down about 8 hours out. Driver called in panicked. Load of dairy, no backup. I got under the hood, mapped out a 3-step decision tree on the fly, called a courier for parts, then walked the guy through a temporary bypass over the phone. Jasmine watched me handle it, arms crossed but relaxed. When the call ended and the parts were on their way, she said, "Nice. You think like you've been here 10 years. I said, "Nah. Just a lot of nights at Ray's." She smiled. "Ray trained you right." I set up a PM spreadsheet that same night, color-coded it so even the night guys could spot issues at a glance. It wasn't flashy, but it worked. By week 2, 2 of the mechanics started stopping by my desk, not to complain, but to ask what I needed from them. I said, "Clean bays and honest notes." That's it. One of them, a kid named Oscar, said, "Nobody's ever said it that simple before." Payroll hit that second Friday. My first full check from Redline. No delays, no confusion. The deposit felt solid in my account. I stared at the number for a minute. Not wild money, but clean, reliable, like a platform you can actually build something on. Monday morning, a card came in the mail. Health insurance, my name on it. I stuck it on the fridge with the free magnet from the leasing office and left it there like a trophy. That afternoon, I drove to a department store and bought 3 dress shirts that fit me right. Not baggy, not secondhand, not picked from the discount rack just to get through an interview. Actual fit. Real sleeves, white, blue, dark gray. Ray called the next day. "How's the new crew?" he asked. "They know what a timing chain is," I said. "And no one's filming my coffee breaks." He chuckled. "Shop's weird without you. Jules got that Tahoe running strong. Finally cracked the idle issue. Tell her I said congrats. Come back anytime," he said. "But I hope you don't." That hit harder than I expected. The good kind of hard. Meanwhile, Colleen moved fast. She filed the answer to Kara's petition, dropped the thumb drive into evidence with timestamps, and flagged the security footage with a label, "Premeditated public humiliation." She told me, "Keep receipts." Every dollar moved. Every shift missed Kara's lawyer tried to play smart. Sent a list of spousal support considerations. Colleen sent back a one-liner. "Please review Exhibit C." That was the Miller's video. The judge set a hearing date 4 weeks out. I emailed Jasmine and put in for a single day off. No questions asked. Back in Cedar Falls, I slept through the night. No phone buzz at 2 a.m. No pretending not to hear crying. No pretending to still care. I ate real food. Nothing fancy, just hot. I cleaned my own place, hung my own shirts, paid my own bills with money I earned doing work that made sense to people who knew how hard it was. After dinner, I walked the yard, checked the wind on the back fence, listened to the hum of engines cooling off, smelled the faint mix of fuel and rainwater puddled under the dock. That scent used to stick to me like failure. Now it felt like peace. Peace felt weird at first, like silence you don't trust yet. But by the second week it felt normal. Not just quiet. Mine. Court smelled like old carpet and nerves. I wore the blue shirt I bought in Cedar Falls, the one that fit just right at the neck. Sat beside Colleen in the second row, hands flat on my thighs, palms down. No tapping, no shifting. Kara came in wearing white, not off-white, bright, deliberate white, like she was walking into a second wedding instead of the end of her first. Lydia sat 2 rows behind her, arms crossed, jaw locked. Neil didn't show. The clerk called our case. We stood. Colleen nodded once, cool as steel. Kara's lawyer, a guy who looked like he practiced in front of a mirror, tried to speak first, but the judge shut it down. "Let's see the video," she said. Colleen queued it up. The screen flickered once, then played. Lydia rehearsing near the restrooms. Tessa mouthing 3, 2, 1 like she was behind the scenes of a reality show. Kara's hand sliding the envelope across the table. Me signing it without a blink. The judge didn't speak right away, just watched. Leaned back in her chair, eyes squinting like she was trying to smell the moment through the screen. When the video ended, she sat forward slow and folded her hands. "I've seen this movie before," she said, "but not with such crisp footage." She flipped through the file Colleen gave her, looked over at Kara, then at Lydia. "No spousal support," she said. "No attorney's fees from respondent. Each party retains assets in their own name, shared items to be sold or split per the submitted inventory." Lydia opened her mouth, probably to protest, but then shut it. Kara didn't move, just stared ahead like her brain hadn't loaded the outcome yet. The gavel didn't even feel loud. It just landed. 3 days later, I was back at Redline filling in a gap in the route calendar when Jasmine knocked on my cubicle wall. "Fran from Central County Outreach is here," she said. "She's asking for you." I stood, wiped my hands on my pants like old habits, and walked out front. Fran was tall, red lipstick, carried a clipboard like it was a badge. I recognized her from one of Lydia's Labor Day things. She squinted when she saw me. "You're Lydia's," she started, then caught herself. "You were Lydia's son-in-law." "That's right," I said. Her eyes flicked to my badge. "Supervisor. Clear as day." "She didn't mention that," Fran said. "She told us you were between things." Before I could answer, Jasmine walked over. "Luke rerouted an entire fleet through a thunderstorm last week," she said. "Kept 5 deliveries on time. The drivers brought cupcakes." Fran gave a tight smile. One of those recalculating everything expressions. She didn't say much after that. Just scheduled the charity hall and left a lot more polite than she came in. That night, Sid texted me a photo. Someone had started a hashtag Team Luke tab at Miller's Tap. Sharpie signatures all over it. Buck. Jess. Even Marco signed it with a little wrench drawing. Jess sent a selfie right after, her holding a cardboard sign that said, "We're proud of you." I didn't even realize how much I needed that until I saw it. The next morning, Kara sent one last text. "Kara, maybe we rushed. We really had something." I stared at it for a full minute. Then I typed back, "Me. We had a roof and running water. You wanted a brand." Then I muted the thread for good. A few days later, a small envelope showed up at the yard. No return address. Inside was a note. No signature, just 2 words in blocky handwriting. "I'm sorry." I knew it was from Neil. I folded it clean and tucked it in the back drawer of my desk at Redline, next to a photo of me and Ray holding up that busted alternator like it was a championship trophy and a pack of backup fuses. The last thing Lydia ever did was send me a connection request on LinkedIn. No message, no emoji, just the request. I clicked ignore. Then I went back to finishing a PM report that was due by lunch. That click felt better than any speech I could have given. 6 months in, Jasmine called me into the office with her usual no-nonsense tone but a grin she couldn't hide. "Don't get mushy," she said, handing me a plaque. "Outstanding improvement. On-time PM's up 32%. Joe clapped like he was at a ball game. Someone yelled, "About damn time," from the shop floor. I didn't say much, just nodded once, real slow. The drivers pooled together and got me a custom-made metal sign. Luke's Bay. Even though I didn't wrench much anymore, I hung it up. Every time I walked past it, it reminded me exactly who I'd built it all for. I signed up for one last night class just to finish what I started, operations scheduling. I aced it. Mr. Edmonds sent a short email the next day. "Knew you would." I printed it and slapped it on my fridge next to the takeout menu from the diner I liked and my health insurance card. It looked like a weird collage, but it was mine. Redline bumped my pay to $68.05 after my first review. Wasn't lottery money, but it was steady, secure quiet. I used it to pay off every card I'd racked up trying to impress people who never thought I belonged. October rolled in, and one Tuesday, Rosa called from a way station. Random inspection, her first. I walked her through it step by step, calm like always. When it was over, she said, "You don't get rattled, do you?" I told her, "I've had practice." We laughed like we'd worked together for years. Neil texted me a photo of a base he'd caught. Big one. Right after it, he sent a picture of a chair at the Thanksgiving table. Empty. No caption. I didn't ask questions. Just wrote back, "Fish looks heavy." He said, "It was." Then one day I got a package from Sid. Miller's Tap t-shirt, covered in Sharpie. Buck Jess. Marco. Even two people I didn't recognize had signed it. Jess wrote in thick letters across the back, "You didn't let them write your ending." I wore it to bed, to the laundromat. Even once under a dress shirt on a rough day at work. It helped. I bought a used F-150 in cash. No cosigners. No arguments about who got the title. I spent a Saturday morning changing my own oil in the apartment parking lot, just because I could. No one watched. No one criticized. Just me, tools, and time that finally felt like mine. Every now and then, a rumor floated back through someone who knew someone. Lydia telling people I lucked into something. I never corrected it. Let her think luck did the work. Truth is, luck just showed up late. I was ready when it did. I kept my head down and did the work. Taught two younger techs, Miles and Jordan, how to think through a problem without yelling at it. I told them what Ray once told me. Fast is good, but clean is better. They listened. One night after a long shift, Miles handed me a scrap of paper from a parts box. All it said was, "Thanks for seeing me." That scrap hit harder than a raise. I stuck it in my glove box, right next to those old notes Jules gave me back at Ray's. The win? It wasn't the job title, wasn't the check, wasn't the court decision or the silence that followed. It was walking into a bay and being the guy people listened to. It was no longer explaining myself to people who never wanted to understand me in the first place. It was walking out of a bar on my birthday with my own damn keys in my jacket pocket, and a future no one handed me, just one I built when no one thought I could. Quiet, simple, done. And I can't even tell you how good that felt. Would you have signed on the spot or walked out? Leave it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. It's huge for us, one click.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.